What is going on, everybody? We are back. ABJ Podcast, still going strong, season 3, and boy, am I excited for today's interview for you all to check out. This is one that's been a long time in the making. Very excited for this one, if these interviews aren't just for the wrestling fans, I try to put it to landscapes of people who maybe don't understand wrestling but enjoy hearing people's stories and dreams and stuff like that. But this is a person that everyone has either loved to hate or have fallen in love with this character. And I do really appreciate how hard it is for someone to play a character in an industry and then to also pull the curtain down and be themselves in a podcast like this. And especially in this industry, I really value that. And it's something that a lot of people are very protective of their character. Like growing up, if you're a wrestling fan, The Undertaker waited 40 years before he did an interview outside of being The Undertaker. And now we're getting all those gems, whether you like him or not. But on the independent scene, it's even harder for people to do that. So for someone to put the curtain down tonight is super exciting, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear that. Before we get started, I just want to do my quick internet can shaking. Links below to support the podcast and my guest links. So make sure you go and grab those t-shirts, follow on social media, support wherever you can, whether it's my guest or myself. Also, we do have Ruta Entertainment above my head. You'll see it better when the guest comes on the screen. For all your belt making needs, your YouTube Intercontinental Championship, the Workhorse Champion, you can get your same title. If you can dream it, he can make it. Hit up Ruta Entertainment. Also, High Tension Wrestling makes great content. Tons of great things going on over there. Please subscribe to them. This interview will also air the next day on their YouTube channel. So we have a little cross promotion. So if you're watching this on the High Tension side, come over and subscribe over to our YouTube channel and vice versa. Help their watch hours, help them get monetized, and let's keep growing this industry of professional wrestling. Interviews are open for anyone else. If anybody else wants to come as a guest in this podcast, you do not need to be a professional wrestler. You can do anything. If you have a story, if you're chasing your dream, if you have something you just want to talk about, shoot me a DM and let's get a conversation going. I'm very fortunate that I have access at these shows to have that backstage, to have that access to the talent and these amazing people who put their bodies and their lives and everything on the line to go and do this thing we call professional wrestling. Without further ado, let's bring in my guests. I'll let them introduce themselves so you guys can get a better idea. Right away, you're going to be jarred. It's going to be great. So let's bring them in. What's going on, my guy?
What's going on? It's Travis Norbert. That's right.
The most.
This is also Travis Parsley. Hey.
Yeah. Who is that guy? Right. So we were talking.
His real voice.
Yeah. We were talking before the show happened, and I remember the first time I heard your real voice. BP's like, hey, can you do me a favor? I know you know how to handle equipment and you know how to wrap things up and clear things up properly. Travis is trying to break down Spark because he has other things to do. Can you go give him a hand? And I go over and I'm like, hey man, I don't want to like come and touch your stuff because I know as someone who does equipment, I'm very particular the way it gets put away and things are done. And I remember you spoke to me and I was like, wow, all right, there he is.
That reminds me of a funny story. Usually when I go around to a promotion for the first time, I'll stay in character when I show up and I'll be the state athletic commissioner. And I have had some of the boys fooled an hour later when they take a double check and they're like, wait, that's not his real voice? What? I thought that was really him. Yeah, I take that as a compliment. So
yeah, no, it's great. It's like I said, that character work. Like one of my favorite things ever in the history of professional wrestling is the Andy Kaufman bit. Like just Andy Kaufman as a character, Andy Kaufman as a human being, as a comedian, and the way he intertwined that into professional wrestling, and he completely blurred lines of people not knowing what was real and what was fake, and even people in the business were like, what is happening? Like they were genuinely confused. So when people in 2025 can still get somebody, it's a win. It's a win for the business. It's a win for just a fan of myself, seeing people just commit to it. And you go above and beyond to do that. I mean, your social media presence, the character you portray, the way you interact with the fans, the whole package. You're just a home run, man.
Thank you. It's all about suspending that belief, even for 2 minutes. People have their daily lives and it's stressful, especially, during the past couple of years. And if I can take their mind off of things for a little while, that makes me feel like I have a purpose. And it's all about entertainment. And I have found that I love entertaining people. And I've found out more about myself that I really want to fill that I guess desire in people to be entertained, and it's something that I never really put a lot of my energy into before, and apparently I've had it in tap all this time, and it just came out, and here I am. So,
How did this character come about? Like the voice, the act, everything about it. Like how did it come to be?
oh man, there's so many influences. So I guess we're going to go into my actual history later, but I'll go into like the character genesis here. When I started my journey into pro wrestling, I originally just wanted to go in as a manager, and one thing led to another, and they're like, well, you look good for your age. You move really good for your age. Why don't you try this? And I did it, and they're like, wow, why don't you try this move? Okay, cool. Wow, we didn't think you could do that. Why? How about you actually have full matches? Oh, wow, he can have matches too. Okay. So I went in thinking I was just going to be a manager, but I got actual training as a professional wrestler. And I started learning about a state athletic commissioner in Maryland under the name Pat Piniella. And I would hear stories about this, and I would question my trainers, and I would say, wait, this is real? This is a real guy? And I'm trying at the time to develop some sort of character. And I get these stories about how he was always stealing money from the boys, or he was always getting people's names wrong. And if you see, I get people's names wrong on purpose. That's part of the character. So don't take offense out there if I do that to you. It's part of the character. And it's that anger that a lot of the guys had as wrestlers and fans against a authority figure in this Pat Piniella guy. And he's legendary with getting the smallest little violation to try to shut down a show and take something away from the fans. So I knew that would generate a want in an audience. And my training, a want is what we call heat. You're generating heat. And I combined that with what I knew personally in my life to generate resentment, in yourself. And it's that person in the office setting that's the goody two shoes, that's always tattletaling, that's kissing up to the supervisor. And it's also that little tattletale in high school that was running to the principal and telling on you, right? If I combine all that together, I have this character. And it just kind of came out of nowhere. And originally I was the government official, and I would come out with these real angry promos and everything. And I remember listening to Danhausen, and he was talking about how you don't want to be hated too much. You don't want to be loved too much. You want to be kind of in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And some of my influences from Danhausen, and it's that combined with, okay, how do I elevate this character to another level? Okay, well, let me add a voice to it also. Well, that sounds kind of irritating. That sounds kind of snooty. Okay, so I'll mix it all together, and then you have Travis Norbert. And I had this guy in me. I have almost 20 years in work for the civil service, administrative, actually doing like rulemaking and things like that. So the best characters out there are an amplification of yourself to 100, right?
Yeah.
So all of that together, and then you have Travis Norbert.
When people who've known you your entire life hear the Norbert voice, or they see you just completely immersed in this character that you don't like, because when it's showtime and the audio and the doors open, you don't change. That is you until the fans walk back out the door, and then you're like you another guy. I don't want to like pull too much curtain, but Johnson's like that too. When Johnson walks in the door, you don't shake his hand, don't go near him, don't say hi to him. If you're behind the curtain, please come give me that hug, show that love, show that respect. But in front of that crowd, I'm a scumbag. Don't talk to me.
Yes.
And I even caught myself a couple times like, yo, what's up, man? And he just walked, and I was like, shit, I forgot. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. Yeah. I have a lot of that old school mentality in me that curtain is not to be lifted up in front of the audience. And out of respect for the business and the industry, you want to make sure that you give all you can give. And the best way you can do that is to stay focused in your job. And your job is to present that character and to fill a role in a promoter's promotion. So I take a lot of my cues from MJF. He's very adamant about staying in character, of course, in front of everyone. I try to do it as much as I can, but once that audience is funneling in, it's like something switches and I'm Travis Norbert, and I turn it on and I don't see in front of me anymore. I don't have like a perception of reality. It's just this character that is coming out full force and he's like just ready to go.
Yeah.
And then when you talk to me, offline, it's a very calm, cool person,
It's a lot of energy to do that all for 2.5, 3 hours. That's a lot of energy to be that all that, like, even commentary, like there's shows where you have to go through a range of emotions and a range of feelings, whether it's funny, whether it's serious, whether it's emotional, and you have to put yourself on that emotional roller coaster to tell the story in wrestling. There's been times after wrestling shows I'm like, I don't want to talk. I want to sit in a room the day after a show and just be by myself in a dark room and kind of refill myself, because you put a lot of your energy into that. And I do it on a very minor level. I couldn't imagine playing a character like that you do and just not be drained by the end of the night.
Well, two things I'll say. The first thing is I actually lose my voice a lot of times the next day because I'm shouting and I'm doing that tight squeezing of my vocals, and I go hoarse and I can't talk the next day. And people are like, "What's wrong with you?" So it is definitely an exercise. It's definitely a workout. And the second thing is, thank you for long car rides, because that is actually that piece that you're talking about. Where is that part where you can calm down and kind of decompress and have your recuperation time, right? It's those long car rides, and this whole wrestling thing has, every weekend I'm in a different state and I'm driving just like the old boys used to do. I mean, not as much, but like I'm driving all up and down the East Coast, so it gives you time to have those interactions with your car mate, and you can learn about the business that way. Some of the best training you have is learning in the car with someone who's got more experience with you. But that's downtime and you can recuperate, and then you show up to the next show and it's ready to go again. Let's go.
Yeah. Now the energy you bring to PPW, and I don't want to pull too much away. And I hope I don't say anything I'm not supposed to, but like you help with the production side of things. You're bringing equipment that helps the show better. You're helping in so many different aspects of not just being Travis Norbert, the character. I've heard you have personal conversations to Paul of like, hey, this talent's coming in. I brought his name in. Like you're a talent scout too. Like you're trying to not just get over yourself and build your character and build your brand, but you're bringing the equipment to help that show better. You're looking for opportunities for other talent to come in so they can get opportunities. Like you're very selfless, and it's admirable to see.
Well, I'll say a lot about that. I'm not entirely selfless because I have to get myself over. I have to get my character out there. I have to be greedy. But the truth is, I do have a lot of, I guess, what's the best way to describe this? It's kind of hard. I don't want to reveal too much, but you have a brotherhood with the guys that you wrestle with, and there's a sense of admiration, and you want to give them opportunities. So I'm older. I know I don't look it. I know I look very young, about 22 or so, but I don't have too many years left in me. So if I see someone that is going to be good for promotion, they're talented, they have a good head on their shoulders, and I have access because of the brotherhood and I've been through training and things like that, I'm going to recommend certain people that would fill a spot in a wrestling show. And for me, a wrestling show, it's a portrait. The promoter is the painter. It's my job to be a color or a shape in whatever way he wants or she wants that design or that color. It's my job to do that. So in a way, I'm a bit selfless because it's usually, hey, what do you want me to do? Okay, cool, I'll do it. And I don't even think about like any long-term effects on my character or me getting over or whatever. I don't think about that. Promoter asks me to do something, I just do it. So hey, do you know anyone who can help us out? Any new workers that can come in that are really good? Yeah, I have a couple. I'll recommend them. And
you
when
brought
it comes
some
to
home runs too to PPW. You brought some.
I have another one coming.
Yeah.
I have another one coming. He's going to be coming the next show. and I don't want to spoil anything, but a brand new debut person, and people will look back on this podcast and they'll say, "Wow, is he talking about that guy? He's been on TV for 10 years, right?" But uh, we were talking about before, I have a lot of equipment. And from my previous life, I have a lot of production experience, audio engineering, mixing, mastering, DJing, video production, streaming, all that. And I didn't want all that equipment to go to waste. And when a promoter comes to me and says, "Hey, I'm in a spot," or we would have an even better product if we had access to this. I'm like, "Hey, I got it. I'll just bring it." So all that together, if you can, and let this be some advice to up and coming talent out there, make yourself as valuable as possible. It doesn't necessarily have to be, I'm a great worker in the ring and I can wrestle and all that. Show other talents that you have, because you become that much more desirable to promoters and you will get on more shows that way. So I try to just bring everything I can, because that's how much I love the business. That's how much I love it. So
I love that. Well, let's dive in. Let's dive into you as a person now, the character. I love it. Let's get into this. When did you fall in love with this industry of professional wrestling?
Oh man, I'm gonna reveal my age here. Kerry Stilkins, you ain't got nothing on me, buddy. I see Kerry Stilkin all the time. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's great.
So my dad, who recently passed away, one of my biggest influences on me, he would take, and I'm gonna reveal my age here a little bit. He would take me down to the Baltimore Arena, as it was called back then. I don't know what it's called now. It's First Mariner Arena or Civic Center or whatever. And I was actually there to watch NWA, Midnight Express, the Road Warriors, Nikita Koloff, who I just saw a couple weeks ago. And that's when I fell in love with it. It was just something that you did with the family. It was something you sat around the TV. We didn't have internet. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have things like that. We went outside. We played sports. And wow, there's MTV maybe if you have enough money to pay for that. But hey, there's this wrestling thing on. You have WWF, if I'm allowed to say that. And then you have NWA, or then WCW, on the other station. And that's what got me into it. And I guess it was like bonding time with the parents. And I think that's probably true for a lot of other people. That's when I actually developed that birth in the industry. And it lasted for a very long time. And one thing led to another. I discovered girls, and I went to college, and got a job in civil service and things like that. And then one thing led to another, and then I came back into it. And then I had a lot of catching up to do, and then here I am. So that's how the love started and where it came from.
So what you said, you kind of answered a little bit of that. You did play sports and stuff growing up. There was never like the goal of like, I want to break into the business at some point growing up? You were just like, I'm a fan of this. Didn't even know if it was like, for me personally, I didn't even know it was even possible. Like, I thought it was like something it was like a secret society cult thing that you had to know someone, because you kind of did at one point in time in this business. Yeah. I didn't think I'd ever find a way into this, but here we are. But like, what sports did you play? Like, what, like athletic wise, or like a type of kid you were growing up?
Yeah, I grew up very poor in the inner city of Baltimore, and I guess we'll go into more of my background in a bit. But we played two-hand touch football in the street, literally in the street. Pass, okay, here comes a car. Pause. Let's walk to the side. Okay, cars pass. All right, let's continue playing.
You ever hit a parked car?
Have I ever hit a parked car with what, a football or another body?
No, with you as a body, like you.
Oh, sure.
Like,
I'm not going to admit it back then. I didn't do that.
Yeah,
I did that.
I bruised 2 ribs. I was taking off, looking over from my shoulder, right over the hole. Bow!
You gotta go hard. If you're gonna play, you gotta go hard. I mean, come on. But I played a lot of baseball. We had Patterson Park nearby, and a lot of you out there are probably getting a sense on where I'm from now. And basketball, I played a little bit of high school basketball, so I was very athletic. But then, the day job and the career in college came about, and I kind of stopped being athletic, unfortunately. Kind of got bigger and everything, and recently I got back into shape. But yeah. So,
were you always an entertainer? Were you always like trying to make people laugh and be funny, or did you kind of flew under the radar?
Well, okay, I'll say this: I had no desire or concept that I would enter pro wrestling as someone on the inside, or be a pro wrestler, or be a manager, or whatever area I'm in. I idea that was even on the horizon for me. I had none. And I had some friends, and we were involved in playing cards or whatever. And then we're like, hey, let's go check out this indie show in Maryland. I was like, yeah, okay, which one is it? And I never heard of it. And it was ACW, ran by James Ellsworth from WWE. And then we went, and the other guy's like, oh man, I think I want to do that. And he was really big and athletic. And then I'm like, well, hey, let's look around and see if we can find maybe a training school. Maybe we'll go. And this was only a couple years ago. So he's like, yeah, let's look around. So I went to some shows. I started talking to some talent, and they're like, yeah, we got a training school, Riot City, up here in Maryland, in Sykesville. You can come train with us. Yeah, Nick Taylor. He's a very good trainer. And he chickened out, and I continued to go. So that's kind of how I landed there.
Who's that one kid that's from that school or that team? He looks like a little Seth Rollins, except that he has like the blonder hair. Really good look to him.
Logan.
Yes, Logan.
I shouldn't be using real names. It's Jason Drake, right?
Jason Drake. Yes.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. He's a cool dude. He came before me. He's a very good performer. Just got strapped with a cool title recently. Congratulations to you. But going back to like the entertainment thing, I was always a comedian, and I was always making people laugh. But I never did anything with it. I never thought to myself, okay, let me make this a career. Let me make this a job. Let me go somewhere with this. I mean, now my goal is to be on TV, and I think I'm good enough to be on TV, and I want to get there. That is my goal, but I never thought that 2 years ago. It never even entered my mind. But I've always been told by my friends, oh, you're so damn funny, and you have a crazy sense of humor, and you're so creative. But I never did anything with it, and I was just like kind of like letting it waste away. So I'm kind of glad my friend chickened out, because then I kind of got motivated to go even harder, So yeah.
A lot of people have abilities and a lot of people have talents, but the biggest thing that holds people back when it comes to being a true entertainer is almost, I say it in the aspect of how I perceive it, but like a fear, like to get in front of a large group of people and just willing to show your ass essentially, and just be unapologetic of what happens, how it goes down, how people perceive you, because that's a mental block that a lot of people can't. Like, they can go and do a 450, they can wrestle, they can do everything, but if it comes to that crowd interaction and playing into them, they shut it out completely.
I'll tell you this, and this might surprise you. Before I actually started doing pro wrestling, I had stage fright, and I would literally stutter and slur and sweat and lose my train of thought in business meetings. Anytime I would have to get up and present in front of people. I had extreme stage fright. And years and years and years ago, I was such a wallflower. I would not even go up to someone in a nightclub and talk to them. I would just stand against the wall and listen to music and watch everybody and everything. And then one thing led to another. When I was trying to pay for college, I had to do what I had to do at the time. I grew up very poor. I had to bounce in nightclubs. I was bouncing in this place called Latin Palace in Broadway in Baltimore City. And a lot of you all out there know what that is like. And that kind of brought me out of my shell, because you're kind of forced, because you're throwing people out of the club and you got to be physical. And that kind of brought me out of my shell. But once I started actually doing wrestling, I feel like I was made to do this. I was put on this earth to be in this wrestling industry, and I never realized it before. I wish I would have realized this 20-some years ago. But when I go out there, and even though I had that history of like stage fright and everything, I don't have that anymore. It's just not there. When I walk through that curtain, something snaps, and I literally, I have no concept of who I was before, who I am out behind the curtain. I'm Travis Norbert, and I am living that character, and I am amped up to 2000, and that is it. There's no fear at that point. And even, when I get in the ring and I take that microphone, and that's what I'm known for, grabbing that microphone, and I get in the middle of that ring and I start going off and I'm insulting people, things that would maybe make people nervous. I don't have any nervousness in me. I don't have anything. Like, maybe I'm supposed to, maybe something's wrong with me. I don't know, but I don't I don't have any
I don't-
fear when I'm
I
out
don't know how
there.
you don't break yourself either. I would, if I said some of the stuff you're, I'd be laughing. I would make myself laugh. Like but you just get even angrier. Like when you really get emotional with like when you're that angry, like it's gold. I always say that the best place to be in professional wrestling, and I try to do it once or twice a show, is just kind of hang out by the curtain, because watching that, like the person standing, like another person I really like watching do is Sammy Chaos. Sammy Chaos has a really good, and as I say that, you can watch this yourself or look for it. But that moment where they're behind the curtain and they're about to go out and they're giving the hugs and like, let's have a good match, you be safe. And then they step in that curtain and the music hits and they just transform.
Yeah,
they become something else. It's such a magical energy that you cannot. I wish I can I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, and just watching each person in the show get to that position, transform, and hit the curtain, and then they come to the curtain, sometimes even fighting through it, and then they take a second and they're like, "Was I good?" I'm like, "You were amazing." What do you mean? Were you?
Yeah. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. When you get back to the curtain, you're like, I don't know how it was, and you start asking around. You're like, was I the shits? You know, and they're like, oh, it was great. You know, I'm always inside my head. I always think I did far worse than what I do. What I am when I go back and look at the video or people tell me. But in my mind, a lot of times I go back and I'm like, oh Christ, that sucked. It was the shits. I hope I can curse.
Yeah, you're good.
But funny you bring up Sammy Chaos. She was the very first person I had a segment with at PPW. Like Paul had me come in and start messing with her about her gear and everything. And I'll say this about Sammy Chaos: she is someone that belongs on TV. Yes. And I'm not just saying that because you're my buddy, but you know, you're like Big Van Vader when she comes out in that ring, and she's like, whoa. But backstage, she's a sweetheart.
Yeah, the best. And I'm not just saying this because I'm proud to be a friend of this promotion and people like Paul and people at the locker room. But I'm gonna be completely honest. There's 50% of that locker room of PPW that could be on TV. And I'm genuinely saying that, like, not trying to blow smoke up anyone's ass. Like, there's people there that, if not now, I can see in the next 3 to 4 years, if they don't get snatched with a WWE ID or they're on AEW, it's a waste. Like, other people are messed up by not seeing them, and platforms like this, or how you show up to shows, like that's where my mentality is. Like, how can I do an interview? How can I make content? How can I put somebody over? Because I think more people need to be aware of them.
And I'll say this about Paul. Paul Bowes, the promoter, for those of you out there don't know, for PPW. He takes great pride in his promotion, just like James Ellsworth. And he puts his heart and soul into the production quality. He wants a show. He takes it very serious. He takes a lot of pride in it. It's the lights, it's the camera, it's the interview team, it's the segments, it's the talent that he brings in. And you have such a collection of talent that is so good. That is one of the few places that I'm aware of in this area where you can go and see Kerry Silken there. There's a reason, I think, that Kerry Silken is often at our shows, and he's hanging out and he's talking to us and he's in the crowd a little bit and he's watching sometimes. There's a reason. And, you know, a lot of us wouldn't be here without Kerry. Kerry, I love you. And luckily Kerry likes me too. So that's cool. I'd never thought like a Kerry Silken would be talking to me and like me, you know, it's cool.
Yeah.
But I think that speaks volumes about the promotion itself and the collection of talent that Paul has brought into that expo center there. So it's something. And I see a lot of our guys show up on AEW, you know, a week or two later, and some guys show up on Raw, you know, next day or whatever. And I'm so proud. Yeah. I even messaged them and I'm like, I am so fucking proud of you. Yeah. And I mean it, you know, and when you get that brotherhood, you really mean that when you say that. When you see one of your brothers or sisters out there and they're succeeding enough and they got on, you're proud. You know,
yeah.
You feel
I watched Casey Navarro go from PPW's guy that if the name came in, Casey Navarro was going to tear the house down with him, to go into Impact Wrestling, to going over and seeing him in London and surprising him at a Defy show after he wrestled Nick Wayne. Like, moments like that are super cool. I've watched Action Andretti go from Action Andretti to AEW Top Flight Action Andretti. Like, it's cool to see people come through. Like, Main Event were a great tag team in PPW for a long time. Now they're at House of Glory. Just wrestle the Hardy Boys. Like, people are getting cool opportunities, and PPW has been a catalyst for a lot of talent.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like, just talking about the opportunities, I never thought I would be in a situation where I'm getting punched by Devon Dudley.
Yeah.
He's beating me up in the wrestling ring. I never thought I'd be in a situation where Matt Riddle's beating me up in the ring. Bro, I got you. And I'm talking to Al Snow. I'm meeting Kerry Silk, and I'm talking to James Ellsworth.
Speaking of Al, I got my little Al tribute there.
You got to. He's
I have my own head.
There you go. Yeah. I never thought I'd be in a locker room with a Kurt Angle or someone like that, and it's crazy. Like I said, a couple of years ago, I had no idea I would be in this world. I never thought I was good enough. I never thought I could do something like this before. So
yeah. So how was it finding your place in wrestling when you said you came in, you were going to do the manager role, fell into the wrestling? Like, how was it navigating that? And you said kind of those early stages before you were able to break out of that stage fright.
Oh man. So I legit thought I was just going to be a manager, and I didn't have the capability to take any kind of bumps or anything. I was older. I'm older. And I had an office desk job for a long time, and you're on the computer doing this, and you got hunched over, and you got the bad back and everything. And COVID had just happened. My weight got out of control. I was up there about 260 at one point, and it wasn't muscle. It was not muscle.
Yeah, old photos, even your photo of you in your shirt, you're a completely different human.
Oh yeah, I don't even look like this anymore. I got to get new shirts. So, but I started training, and then they're like, all right, let's take a bump. And when I took my very first bump, I was so out of shape and so unhealthy at the time. I was dizzy. I was ready to puke. My whole skeleton vibrated. It hurt. I pulled all the muscles in my neck from tensing up, and I was so unhealthy before I started doing pro wrestling. I would get out of breath just going up 15 or 20 steps. And I started doing this wrestling thing, and every day was a struggle. And I never told the guys this, and I was a lot heavier, and I was out of breath, and I was probably the weakest one there. And just slowly just gain a little bit more strength, got a little bit more strength. Lost a little bit of weight. Okay, why don't you try a flip bump? Oh, I can't do that. I'll break my neck. All right, just do it. Boom. Oh, wow. I couldn't believe I did that. I had no idea I would be able to do something like that in the condition I was in and the age I was at. All right, let's do a handstand bump. Oh, I'm not going to do that. I'll break my neck, and I'll try it. Let's do an up and over. I'm not doing that. I'll go outside and bang my head on the concrete. And now I'll do it. And I got one of the biggest heights out of the guys in my group. And wrestling got me healthy, believe it or not. Like, you take all this abuse and all of this, punishment and everything, and the shit hurts. So I don't think that what we do is bullcrap. Yes, we go over the endings and storylines and everything, but it's real when you're taking those impacts. That is real. It hurts, and it puts a lot of punishment on your body. But the wrestling and the training, as much as I was getting beat up and slammed around, it was making me healthier. I lost 50 pounds within my first year of training to be a pro wrestler at the time, or manager, whatever you want to call it, a hybrid, I guess. So I never thought it was possible. And I'm so thankful for it. And weird how things work, because I was in a match and I broke my jaw, got my jaw broken, and I finished the match. It's probably more of my upbringing in me, just go, don't give up.
I don't know how you did, because you not only did you break your jaw, it looked like you were concussed. Like, you looked
I was
cold. You were out cold.
I was for like 15 seconds. I said to Jeff, the ref, I was like, hey, I think my jaw's broken. He's like, what? I think my jaw's broken. And I kind of like dazed out a little bit and had this ringing in my ears. And I'm like, fuck, I think I'm concussed too. I think my injury is probably hard looking. Let me finish the match. I'm like, all right, this is what I'm supposed to do. Let's do it. And let me go outside and take another bump, But breaking that jaw, I had to get wires put in, and I starved to death for 6 weeks, essentially, because you had to go on this liquid diet because you can't get any food through your teeth, and you have these little gaps that you're trying to get morsels of protein in. And for 6 weeks, I ultimately lost 20 pounds. So the whole wrestling journey dropped me 70 pounds. Wow. All the way from where I started. And now I run circles around people who are younger than me. and losing the weight helps, obviously, but there's a difference between being in shape, out of shape, and ring shape. And I've gotten myself almost to what I'd be considered in ring shape, to where I can run around and be very athletic, and people are surprised. Like, I play the character of old feeble Norbert and everything, and everything, but I actually can go if I have to. Like, I can outrun people, and I don't move my age, thankfully. So, and I just contribute all that to pro wrestling. As weird as it sounds, pro wrestling and the punishments put me through has actually made me more healthy.
Yeah, and the opportunities and the moments are what amazing. Now, the crazy thing is people hearing that story of his jaw being broke, and essentially what happened was a wrestler did a flip from the top rope to Norbert laying flat on his back in the mat, and he overextended a little bit and landed essentially on your head with his entire body weight.
His shins landed on across my jaw.
His legs landed on your face.
I think a knee hit my skull too, or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
wrestling things happen. I have no ill will.
No, not at all.
Obviously, it was not on purpose. So I'm.
But that's what I'm saying. Thankfully, the kid who did it is 36 pounds, so it wasn't like a big dude landed on you. But
oh yeah. Well, it don't take much pressure to actually break a jaw. Like, you can easily break a jaw just by a regular clothesline. So when you're being trained about clotheslines, there's a certain way you're supposed to do it to make sure you don't break anyone's jaw, because that is actually a very weak part of the skeletal.
Yeah.
Right there.
My biggest fear is when someone gets hurt like that, and you come from Northeast Pennsylvania, from Maryland area. Like, if you drive yourself to the show that day, like, here's the thing that I don't think a lot of people put into their head. You drive 4 hours to go to a show to chase your dream, break your jaw, get concussed to the point where you, like, how do you get home? Like, that's
Sugar
what,
Dan.
like,
Sugar Dan.
Like,
there are a lot of backstage stories here. These are the extra tidbits on why the audience should tune in and subscribe.
Yeah.
So when I broke my jaw, me being hard-headed, and my upbringing is like, I'm just gonna walk it off. That's my mentality. That's how I grew up. Dr. Frank came over and yelled at me, and we all love Dr. Frank. I love Dr. Frank,
the legend.
And a lot of people were concerned, and they were horrified, and people were leaving the announcer booth and running over to me and everything. And
you never want
me, I was just like, I think it's broken, but I'm just going to live with it. I'm just going to, as dumb as that sounds, like, that's what was going through my head. I think a lot of that testosterone, like, clouding your good judgment, probably is what it was. So Dr. Frank is yelling at me. He's like, "No, motherfucker." Dr. Frank never curses, by the way. You're going to go to the ER. And I was like, I'm all right. No, it's fine. It's fine. He's like, "No, you're going to the ER, and this is what you're going to tell him. You're going to demand you get a CAT scan and all this other stuff." And I was like, "Oh, fine, whatever," And I had some people back there, at the time, and they were concerned about me, and they were also encouraging me to go. Delilah was very concerned, and I think she's the one that actually got Dr. Frank to go yell at me. And Sabrina, Sabrina, she was very concerned and encouraging me to go and everything. So luckily I had Sugar Dan there, because I was not in a condition to drive, and Sugar Dan drove me to the ER. I think it was St. Luke's, I think is what it was. And they wanted to actually airlift me to a shock trauma center, because the swelling in the jaw can actually swell and close your throat.
Wow.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that. I didn't know that. And I'm sitting there, and when I'm hearing the team tell me that, and I'm like, it's a little bit more serious than I thought. And they're like, "Yeah, you got to go." And I'm like, I don't want to deal with all the transportation and everything. And I know what it's going to be. If I go to the ER here and I get a surgery here and everything, and I live all the way in Maryland, 4 hours away, this is going to be a nightmare getting back and forth with the family and everything. So Sugar Dan calls my wife, and I told him, "Don't you call my wife. Don't tell her, And he calls her anyway. And he dropped me off, I think, at his place, and then she came to get me. And then she proceeded to yell at me for about 2 or 3 hours as she drove me to the ER in Baltimore City, which is closer to us, Johns Hopkins. And they're like, "Yeah, you definitely broke your jaw. It's pretty bad." And they're like, "Yeah, you're going to need surgery." I was like, "Oh, fuck. All right, whatever." So they're like, "Yeah, let's do surgery tomorrow." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I had the surgery, and I had a lot of complications with it, like because of the anesthesia. Like my insides didn't wake up after the operation, and it was some of the most excruciating pain I've ever had in my life, is like my intestines for some reason. and I was screaming in pain. And the next day when I woke up, from the surgery and everything, I had the wires in my mouth and everything, and I said, "All right, it's time to cut a promo. Let's do a promo."
You cut a promo.
I cut a promo right there in the hospital bed, and a lot of people don't. I don't think they know this, and I'll tell them this is real. Me being funny with my character and everything. There's a part where I'm talking into the call button, not the phone. And it looks like, oh, Norbert's just being funny and everything, and he's trying to make you think he's out of his mind, on doped up on medication and everything, and he doesn't realize that that's not a phone. He's talking to the phone, ha ha ha. I actually didn't. I actually thought that was the phone that I picked up. So when I was talking into that phone and the call button, another part, I in my mind still thought I was talking to the phone. And if you look at that promo, I never blink. Like, that's how juiced up I was.
Oh, you were sedated.
I was just living it, But I thought, once you get into this business and you live it and you got the whole brotherhood and everything, you love it. And that's the only thing you can think about. You can think about your family and friends and maybe some material possessions at home that you have. But it's the wrestling. It's the whole thing that just occupies all of your brain. And you're like, I love it. I got to be in it. And when I was in that hospital bed, I'm like, I got to be a part of wrestling somehow. Let me cut a promo. Here we go. So that's the whole jaw thing. So
I'll tell you what, too, that made Travis Norbert, the character, is amazing, and you as a person are amazing. But that moment, I mean, nobody ever wants to see an injury, or someone wants to go through that. I'm sure if you would have taken all back now to not get injured, you would take it. But it kind of birthed that character into another dimension, from the fans, from the internet sass, that injury, you didn't miss a show. You came the next show, wired jaws shut, still playing your character, still doing everything, cutting promos in the hall. I know we're not a huge podcast, but we did our award show at the end of the year. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but we gave you non-wrestler of the year and storyline of the year because you worked so damn hard for the Chris White story. And it was.
I didn't know this. How did I miss this? What?
Yeah, you won 3 awards on our end of the year awards because
no one told me. What is
your
going
dedication
on?
to this? It's so cool. It's so cool how you did it, and it just I just remember seeing. I was like, all right, I get the character. It's fun. And then when I seen you go through, I was like, oh, this is something on a completely different. This is TV. This is a legendary story on an independent scene. And I want more people to know about it. So the fact you even gave me more details that I wasn't even aware of is unbelievable. Thank you.
Oh my God, I feel so bad. How did I miss this? I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, I don't really promote a lot of stuff.
I saw the promos for the awards and everything, and I'm like, I saw my name in there, but people don't pay.
No, you won. You won a few of them. You came up a lot.
Can you
and JS Hawthorne. Yeah,
can you tell me which one? Yeah, send me because I
you and JS Hawthorne did very well that year.
I didn't know. I would share it. I would
get
myself over.
Yeah, you and JS Hawthorne cleaned up, did really well that year. This year.
Okay.
So we talked about adversity, setbacks. The injury is a huge one. Is there anything else that you feel like really held you back at all when it comes to wrestling, or just in general for this journey?
I mean, it held me back. First of all, let me rewind a little bit. I wouldn't actually, as much as breaking your jaw sucked and as much pain as it put me in, I wouldn't actually take it back. Because it changed me in a lot of ways. It made me more, I think, mature in the business, because I then started taking a more assertive role in backstage decision making that before I was maybe too anxious to do or express myself. And it helped me get into even more shape the hard way. Unfortunately, it put me into shape the hard way. But now it's put me where I'm staying and I'm healthy and I'm happy where I am now. So I kind of wouldn't take it back. But going back to adversity and everything, again, I wish I would have done this 20 years ago. Because I'm a little bit up there in age and everything, but I mean, it would have been cool if I came from a more wealthy upbringing and I had a home where we had access to a car or something like that, and I could travel. And I just come from a very rough neighborhood and I grew up very, very poor. If we go into that later, I'll go into more detail, but a lot of that, I think, probably slowed down my access to getting into the business. So,
Yeah. Some key moments or accomplishments you've had in your moment. I know you said you had moments with Matt Riddle and Devon Dudley. Is there any other ones that really stand out for you that you're like, can't believe that actually went down the way it went down?
Oh man, I spent 2.5 hours with Arn Anderson one night, and we talked. And Arn loves me, and I saw Arn at a convention. I think it was Cleveland, and my father had just passed away. And I walk up to him, and first thing he asked me was, "Hey, how's your dad?" I'm like, "Oh, unfortunately, passed away." And Arn was one of the first people to hug me. It was weird, and so that was a really interesting key moment for me because Arn Anderson is somebody me and my dad would sit at the TV and watch.
Yeah,
and then it kind of comes full circle in a very weird way. Just being around Carrie Silken is something that blows my mind still. Like I'm just in awe, and the fact that Carrie likes me, and he's told me something that I think really inspired me. This was just after Kevin Sullivan passed away, and
which was one of his closest friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was talking to Carrie about how I used to go see Kevin Sullivan, even back when at the arena when he was in UWF back in the day. This is before he came over to WCW. And Carrie told me, he's like, Kevin Sullivan would have loved you. He would have loved your character. And when he told me that, that was like a pivotal moment for me. Like, okay, wow, I have this person of this caliber telling me that person of that caliber would appreciate what I'm doing. So I'm going to ignore anybody that doesn't like what I'm doing, you know what I mean? Or has a problem because I'm not serious enough, because if I can get that respect and that level of acceptance from people of that caliber, then that's something that will motivate me to continue. Yeah. So I didn't really think about pivotal moments. Like the jaw thing is pivotal. I mean, there's a lot of things at home that's happened that's been pivotal. I don't know if people want to hear about that, but
Carrie has another one for me as well. I saw like growing up for me personally, just also like I struggle with acceptance and fitting in, and I wasn't someone who like I didn't have like a crew. Like I was always like I was there for the punching bag or the joke or whatever it may be. So even as an adult, I still struggle with that or accepting being wanting to fit in, and so I still have some mental health hangups and stuff like that. And I was going through it a while back. And I remember I just made a post like, hey guys, I try to be upfront and honest with my audience too. Like, hey, I might have to step away for a little bit from wrestling and everything just to kind of clear my head, figure things out. I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't have a car. I don't have a job. And I remember I seen Carrie at Hamburg, and he comes up to me and he pulls me. He goes, come here. And he pulls me aside away from everybody. And he's like, hey, he goes, you know me, right? I go, of course, Mr. Silken. He's like, you know who I've helped with and like who I've been around? He goes, yeah. He goes, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told a lot of other people. Stop being a fucking pussy and get it done. You're too good to be fucking playing around with these people. And I went,
you said Carrie said that?
Yeah, he said, stop being a fucking pussy.
Yeah,
stop being a fucking
Carrie,
pussy. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. And get out there and get it done. And I went, I love you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to reveal too much about my conversation with Carrie, but Carrie was very understanding on my mental state at the time when I was going through my father passing away. And it kind of made me feel a little bit better that something wasn't really wrong with me, because I wasn't really expressing the loss that people would expect. And, Carrie talked to me a little bit about that, and it kind of set me straight. And I was like, okay, everything's fine, but going back to pivotal moments, like even just working for James Ellsworth, for me is something that's like, wow, that's cool. Cause I can tell my friends I work with I work with a guy who came from WWE. That's cool.
He had some pretty big moments when he was there. Like he had some would say like a hot cup of coffee in the WWE at one point. Like it was a short window, but in that short window, there's moments that people are going to talk about for the rest of WWE history.
Well, I'll tell you what. I just talked, and Jimmy's a friend of mine now. I just talked to him on the phone the other day, and even outside of business, Jimmy is a friend, and he's one of the people that really was there for me. When I was going through a tough time a little while ago, and I spent 24 hours straight with James Ellsworth in Cleveland, and it was the most epic thing you could probably imagine. It was me and Ellsworth nearly going to, I think it was SummerSlam at the time, I think. nearly going in.
Yeah.
But what we did do is we hung out with Matt Riddle at Matt Riddle's table in the Cleveland Con. It was the WrestleCon Cleveland, and so you're at the table. You hear Sting walking by, okay, and then here comes Mickey James, and I'm talking to Mickey James all of a sudden, and there's Arn Anderson over here. I'm talking to him. And here's Jinder Mahal. I'm talking to him, and Matt Bros like put me in a headlock over here, and then it's just like a really cool atmosphere. And when that was over, okay, let's go eat, and that was fun. Let's go to a bar. Let's drink a little bit. That was fun. Then it was, let's go to a Cleveland Guardian Oriole game, and let's not buy any tickets. And we went to a game, and we didn't pay. And I'll tell you this about Ellsworth. We walked the streets of Cleveland that day, I think for a couple spans of maybe 10 minutes here and there before getting in and out of cars. And he literally had about 30 people come up to him and recognize him and want pictures of him just from that short time that he was on WWE, But that 24-hour day ended with, let's go hang out and meet the Haktua girl. So fit all of this into one day. All right.
Yeah, that's wild.
So it was a very cool day. And, he arranged a lot of that for me to get me in a good place. And, I appreciate him for that. And I'll never forget it.
It's a good distraction. That day was a good distraction.
Yeah. And again, that was pivotal for me. It's building a bond, with guys, and just me having access to like these minds. Like I just saw JBL a little while ago, and we were talking about things, and just all this access that I somehow have now. It's just so surreal, and I just appreciate it. And it's just every time I have an interaction with someone like that, it's pivotal for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Like I said, people see him. He has the win over AJ Styles. Not a lot of people say they can get a win over AJ Styles, and he helped a Money in the Bank moment. Like you only get one of those a year, and there's only been one a year for how many years, and he's a catalyst for one of those moments. Like there's stuff that's going to last forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. So influences and role models, whether in the business or in personal life. I know you talked a little about your father and.
Yeah. So I mean, my parents definitely influenced me, and it was. I come from a very, very poor background, and it was, you have to do what you can if you don't have money with your hands, and you have to survive. And I came from a neighborhood that was full of street gangs. I had shootings on my block on a regular basis. I had people murdered in front of my steps. That's real. I've had so many interactions in that neighborhood that has shaped me today. And my parents always kept me level-headed, and they always guided me, and they always influenced me to be as tough as you can. Don't give up. You have got to stay committed. You have got to focus on being successful. You have to get an education. You see all these people who are going down a certain path, and they are either ending up dead by the time they're 21 or 30 or whatever. And then you see the few people who actually get out of the hood, right? Get out of the ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one of those people. And I mean, sometimes it comes out at me. I'm not going to lie. Like I come across on this podcast as very professional and very laid back and nice and everything, but I do have that in me, and I'm proud of it. And I never forget where I come from, and other people shouldn't either. So I definitely come from that place, and it helped shape me into the person I am. But
I just keep seeing, like, remember Prison Mike from The Office, where Michael Scott wears the purple bandana, and he pretends to do a scared straight skit. I just see like hood Travis Norbert now, like, or you just come out, you're like,
I don't think I've ever watched The Office, believe it or not, but I do have it in me, and it surprises people, and it comes out when it needs to,
Yeah.
I've learned to control.
Baltimore's a tough city, man. It's like Boston. Like people that come out of that area, you're built different. Pennsylvania, Boston, Baltimore, like not easy.
Well, I mean, there's people out there that call, I don't know, Catonsville, Baltimore, or the surrounding counties, Baltimore. That's not Baltimore. Baltimore is Lexington Market. Okay, it's West Baltimore. It's the North Patterson Park area where I grew up, Monument Street, Milton Avenue. That's Baltimore City to me, and those areas are very rough. But again, that shaped me into the person that I am today, and it motivated me because I saw so much oppression around me. I saw so much murder. I saw so much loss. I saw so much poverty that I just told myself, I'm not going to let that happen to me. I'm going to be successful. And I learned to adjust that survival mentality that I had at an early age when I grew up, to use it to my advantage and channel it in a professional manner so that I could be successful in a workplace. Me and my brother are the only two in my family to ever graduate high school.
Wow.
Yeah, and we are the only two to ever go to college and finish. So again, that a lot of that comes from my parents motivating me, and just seeing how hard it was for them. Like when I was growing up, this is true. I was so poor, so poor. We had to walk along railroad tracks, and I guess it was illegal. I don't know. Take peaches off of these peach trees and put them in buckets and bring them home, and it still had the worms in them and everything, but you were so hungry you ate them anyway. You know, not the worms, but you would clean it off and then eat the peach. We didn't have any food. My parents were unemployed a lot, and there were times when the electricity was off. There were times when we didn't have food. So my dad, being very resourceful, and this is another influence I had in my life, he was very resourceful. He would take a string and go catch racing pigeons with it. And then apparently, like when you catch racing pigeons, this is back in the 80s, they would have like these little blue bands or pink bands or gold or whatever on their ankles. And I guess that tells you who the owner is if you're gambling with the bird. I don't know how it works, but he would take them to this store, and it was like a store with pigeon coops inside and all these pigeons and everything. And they would give you $4, right? And then you get $4 and you go get syrup and bread and you eat syrup sandwiches, you know? So, I mean, that's how poor I was. And I just, I know how the other side lives. And I mean, now I'm successful, and I'm very well off now, unfortunately. Thank you. But it made me rounded. So my upbringing and my background actually influenced me. Now, when it comes to character work or like wrestling, my influence is Ric Flair. Ric Flair. A lot of my ranting, a lot of my little lines are actually stolen from Ric Flair. Like even when I do the "that's right, that's right, that's right," it goes back to that time when Ric Flair would lose his mind on like a Monday Night Nitro, right? And he would start repeating himself, right? And that's kind of where I channeled that. I did that one night for the first time in front of Teddy Long because I wanted to impress Teddy Long, and that's where that came from. So if you're wondering where the "that's right" came from, that's where it come from. Andy Kaufman, the manager character work, Bob Backlund. A lot of my mannerisms are Bob Backlund like. I've had people tell me that, and it's just he's so good, and like it's so into the character. Danhausen is one of my influences. Sting, growing up, the guiding light, showing right and wrong. You know, Harvey Whippleton, Colonel Parker from WCW.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, Dean Malenko. Like I told Dean Malenko this one time when I was talking to him. I was like, Dean, and I meant it. I was like, you know, you were my favorite wrestler actually growing up, like worker. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And he's like, I just want you to know, this is the most happiest day of my life. Just like totally not believing me, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, he's got a sense of humor like that. It popped me, you know. I was like, you know,
No Bobby Heenan?
yeah, I wasn't done, but Bobby
No,
Heenan, because
the way
like
you
the
bump,
whole
like
commission thing.
yeah, you don't expect Bobby to bump the way he did, and that's what made him like. That's why you were so excited for Bobby to get his comeuppance, because when he finally got hit, he would die in the ring, like he would throw himself. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
mhm,
That's what you want to do. You wanna make it look good. And
mhm.
luckily, like I'm still in a position where I can actually have wrestling matches, so I can do a little bit more than people are expecting. But the whole like commission thing, when I go around places or whatever, and if that's starting to get built, it's based off of the Heenan family kind of thing, mixed with the NWO, right? So that's kind of where the commission is in my mind, and like the direction I try to take it. I think that's about it for like wrestling influences. But yeah, so yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's a great list. The commission family is amazing. What you guys have, except one member. One guy is just the drizzling shits. And why is it Logie P? You know what I mean? Like,
I love Logie P.
What
Logie
an anchor.
P. So let me say this about Logie P. My job is to make the audience hate me, because then they
It's
will
so
cheer.
hard when Logie's sitting next to you though, because he's just
Well,
yeah.
here's the thing. My job is to get the audience to hate me, because then they will cheer for the good guy that represents them in their minds, right?
Mm-hmm.
My job is to shit all over Logie P, even though he's on my team. My job is to punish him and berate him just so people hate me even more, because he's on my damn team.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. I actually like Logie P. I like him. He is just a likable guy, and he probably doesn't think I like him because I'm so mean to him, you know, when we're under the lights and everything. But I actually like him, so I kind of feel bad sometimes.
I love messing with him.
Yeah, like I feel bad sometimes, like after I do stuff to him, and I'm like, you know. Yeah.
So he always brings the funnel, but my thing is I act like I'm out of touch, and I don't know what that is. So I'm like, oh, that's what they call a butt chug, right? Like, you're really good at butt chugs. And he's like, that's not what that means. That's not what that means.
So you gave me more material. Now I'm gonna start talking about
you start the butt chug thing, you will be my hero.
Oh, it's done now. You gave me free material. We're good to go.
Yeah. I just did a beer review with him at the last PPW show, and I was like, unfortunately I had no one to drink with, so I'm stuck with this drizzling shits of a human being. We're reviewing funk beers, and I'm just shitting on Logie P the whole time.
Let's not forget members in the commission, though. I want to give a shout out to Sugar Dan. Sugar Dan,
the GOAT. He's God,
is
TV.
So fucking good. Like, first time I saw him, he's not gonna like that I said this to y'all, but first time I saw him, I said, hey, look at Brian Pillman Jr. over there. He looks like he's ready to go on TV, and he fucking hates that, by the way. So
you know what I said? I said he looks like the movie version of the Von Erichs. Like, the Von Erichs had a great body, great look.
Yeah. He looks like Harry Von Erich now. With the body.
Their faces were not anything you can put on a magazine. The Von Erich boys looked like they were the Hills Have Eyes with abs.
Like, here's the thing. Sugar Dan is a very attractive male, right? He's unfortunately not as attractive as I am, though. You see, so like he's jealous that I get more of the attention, you know, and the attractiveness than he gets. But he is TV ready, like visually and athletically. I think it's just a matter of time before he's actually picked up on a contract and you see him on TV. Like, some people you can look at and you can just see star, and he's one of them. And I feel lucky that I'm one of the people that brought him into this, and like I convinced him to come train with us. And a lot of us train at this place, Ride City in Maryland. You've heard a lot of these guys: Big Ben Bishop, Chris Slade, Sugar Dan, me, and these are people that people have no idea that we all came from the same family, you know. And you see us far away in different places far away from Maryland, but it's all coming from that little place down there. So I very much appreciate all that they've done for me. But yeah, the commission's always growing, and I've brainwashed. I mean, I've converted Delilah over into accepting and loving the commission. So Damien, we have, you know, in the commission, and maybe a new member coming in soon, but I won't talk too much about it.
Okay. All right. If the commission ever needs a dedicated podcast media guy, just let me know. I have no problem. As long as Logie's out, I'll replace Logie.
Logie. You're careful, he's gonna pick that pink lacrosse stick up your ass.
Yeah, no shot. What are some hobbies and interests you have outside of professional wrestling? I know when you have those downtimes, are you a TV guy, a video game guy? Like, what do you do to unwind?
So I spent a long time actually playing Magic the Gathering. I have a very extensive collection. Like, I have all these dual lands and everything. I played Legacy for a long time, and I play Commander now. So a lot of Magic the Gathering. Coral, saltwater aquariums. I actually grow stony coral. I have a very huge saltwater aquarium upstairs, and it's cool because you can grow out a piece of stony coral. You can cut it and then literally put super glue, like from the CVS, under the base of it, and replant that little stick on a rock, and that will grow into a new piece of coral. right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. And then you can sell that stuff too, and it's pretty expensive.
Isn't there a reef that needs some help? Maybe you can help reef.
Well, that's the thing. Like the coral that you grow in your aquarium might not actually be strong enough to survive the shock of reintroducing into like an ocean environment. But a lot of this coral has actually adapted to aquarium conditions, which is vastly different than the ocean.
Yeah.
But having said that, I would love to get to a place where I can grow many frags, for example, and donate them to some sort of restoration project, and they can try to reintroduce them into the coral, but into the ocean. But like I said, the shock tends to be a little too much for them, going back into that environment. But a good thing about the industry now is a lot of the coral and fish that you are able to buy now are actually aquaculture here. They're not actually taken from the ocean anymore. Like you get a piece of coral that was originally taken from the ocean 20 years ago, generation after generation after generation, and you get a piece of it, you're no longer pulling from the ocean anymore, so that's cool. That and just doing like the music. I never had enough time to actually do music as much as I wanted to, but like I have a history in production and mixing and everything. And the Travis Norbert intro song that I just released the other day, actually I sat down and did all that myself. So I was like, I got this really cool equipment. I'm just going to make a damn song for myself, and I'm going to make it as irritating as possible but catchy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I came up with. So music, and that's kind of it for hobbies. Like I don't have time for anything else. I mean, I got a full-time job, I got a family, I got kids. I'm not going to talk about my family or kids too much because I don't want them out in the world.
That's fair.
Very, very shielded with them. But yeah, that's my full schedule. Like I don't have time for anything else. But
now, are you also still watching a lot of wrestling on TV for like tape study or stuff like that?
Oh man, see, the guys are going to get so mad at me. Like, I not as much as I want to. I need to be more of a student of the game, but luckily, I have, and I'm so old now, I have a long history of watching wrestling when I was growing up, all the way up until when CM Punk debuted. Or actually, when CM Punk left WWE, that's actually when I actually stopped watching wrestling.
Okay.
And yeah, and I did not, and so I have all that history like ingrained in me, and I have a lot of information that I've learned through. This ain't going to be popular, but Jim Cornette, from Jim Ross, from Eric Bischoff, guys like that. Al Snow. I listen to them and I try to absorb that stuff. Mm-hmm. And regardless of what you think about their personalities, the work experience is something that you can't really deny. And if anything, you got to see the value in that and take heed of it. Yeah. So
Cornette's a historian. He's an amazing historian.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I actually give him a little, not like he needs it or wants it. He probably hates my guts. He probably hates my character, but some of my videos.
I don't think he would. I think he would love your character.
I don't know. I think he.
You don't think so?
I think he's shit all over me because I'm too goofy.
You're very similar to his character.
Oh no! Don't say that. I'm nowhere near as good as him. No.
You're up there, man. Like when I see your character, you remind me of those old 80s, 90s managers like Cornette, you would fit right into that.
Yes,
you would fit right in there.
That's the energy and the style that I do have, and I want to keep it, and I do it on purpose. Like I do have that 80s and 90s type of vibe to my character, and it comes from that history, and it comes from me watching and absorbing that stuff and growing up with that. Nowhere near as good as those guys ever.
You handed Cornette a microphone because he was the vocal point for his team. That's you. Absolutely. Like you're the independent Jim Cornette. Like
I mean, I try to fill a similar role, but no comparison. No. So it's I have that wealth of knowledge in my brain, and luckily it's enough so I can use that kind of blindly. I can kind of just like go naturally and not even think about things because I have that kind of like engineered in me. But I have recently started watching more and looking at it from a different perspective now that I'm actually trained as a professional wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very different now compared to the other viewing aspect of it. And a lot of you out there, you've never taken a bump or anything, and you think you know how things are, and you think you can figure out, and you think how things should be this way and that. You don't know. You have no idea.
Yeah, I've never taken a bump, but I've learned how the magic tricks are done, and I do watch wrestling in a different light.
Right? Yeah, it kind
really
of ruins
impressive
it a
how they
little
do
bit for you when you learn certain things, but I'm learning it. I'm watching it now more for training myself and upgrading my knowledge set. You know what I mean? So, it's and luckily when AEW started up, I saw Tony Schiavone. I'm like, hey, there's the voice of my childhood.
Yeah, I love him.
Oh, Sting is there too? Okay, I'm watching. And I started
Yeah.
watching. And then I kind of drifted off and everything just because once I started actually doing professional wrestling, it took a lot of time out of my schedule and I didn't have enough time to still devote to being a viewer. But now when I do watch, it's more of me being a student or trying to train my brain to absorb and learn on how to get better or to see what else is going on out there and to check the temperature on
totally
the environment.
Yeah. So we have a few more here and then we'll wrap this one up. But words of encouragement for a beginner. I think the biggest thing that you said a lot too, don't wait, right? Because I think you said 15 times that I wish I would have did this when I was younger. You know what I mean? And
it took me 20 years to make my debut on MCW, Maryland Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
I wish I would have stuck with my intentions 20 some years ago. September 11 happened and it took me in a different direction. I was like, I want to do this. I want to go, do whatever and work in this kind of stuff. But I wish I would have stayed on course to what I wanted to do. But I'm here now. Better late than never. Maybe I wasn't mature enough. Maybe there's some large entity out there, eternal force that says you would have messed it up back then. So let me give it to you now when you're more mature and you're not going to fuck it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'll say this. Don't count yourself out. Don't think that you can't do something. Push yourself every day to go a little bit beyond your comfort zone. Had I continued to say, I'm not taking that flip bump, I'm not taking that handstand bump, I'm not trying an up and over, I'm not going over a top rope. Had I kept that natural instinct in my head and not pushed it, I would have never got to the point where I can actually have a wrestling match. I would have never got to the point where I would be trusted with a microphone in my hand, in a wrestling ring. So, and it goes back to, I guess there was a movie, I think it was The Bronx Tale or whatever. It was something to the effect of, the saddest thing in the world is wasted talent, right? And another person used to say to me all the time is, the only things in life you regret are the chances you never took. So I try to live by that. And if you're just starting out, you have to commit, and you have to take the bumps. It's going to hurt. And you keep, just like Cody said, I think a couple months ago, you keep taking the bumps until they don't feel as much anymore, right? You don't feel them as much anymore. Stay committed, stay humble. Don't walk around and think that you know every damn thing and you got a big head on your shoulders and you're the shit and all this other stuff. You are a peon. I am a peon. I have so much to learn. I'm a nobody. Like I feel like I can get somewhere, but I'm still a nobody. Stay humble. Don't stand around and watch your brothers and sisters slave and put that wrestling ring together. Don't do that. Don't show up and leave and not lift a board. Don't do that. Always pick the minds of people who are far more experienced than you are. And if you can have access to people who are on television, that access and that knowledge is extremely valuable. Pick their minds. Try to have as much of your inner self committed to your character work. You have got to build off of something that you are in real life and amplify it times 100. The best character work is based off of a part of yourself that you explode and you're into the stage. Get comfortable on the microphone. It's very hard to be a very good wrestler and you can do all these cool flippy moves and everything, but you can't talk in the microphone or you can't get your character over or, whatever. You've got to have both. So you got to focus on both. You have to have both. And don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to say, I don't feel comfortable doing something. Don't be afraid to say, I'm not comfortable with XYZ. I don't feel safe. And also don't let anyone mistreat you. Like, don't feel like there's this vet card out there. Oh, I can't say anything because this guy's a vet over me. If something is actually happening to you and you're being mistreated as a student, and this happens all over the United States. It happens in Japan. It happens in UK. Say something. Stand up for yourself. Don't feel like you can't. And just don't give up. Like, you got to focus on success. You have got to believe in yourself that you are going to succeed and you're going to get to this place. I don't have time to question myself. I don't have time to beat myself up or to flip out or lose my temper over mistakes or what people are thinking of me. Like, am I good enough or anything like that? You don't have time for that. That's just taking time away from your road to success. So you need to stay on that course. That's the best I can give you. Like, I know I've said a lot, but if that's like kind of, I feel what's gotten me to where I am today. So
no, they're all gems. I love it. It is fun. It is interesting to hear your whole story when you're saying like, I won't do that. I'm going to hurt myself. I can't do that. I won't do that. And now you're probably the point like, let's give it a shot. Let's see what we can do here. You know what I mean?
I'm somehow in a position now where I'm training people too sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people might say, "Oh, he shouldn't be training any damn body. He's not in there long enough." I can train the basics. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and you can train things. Anyone can train anybody in any industry. It may not be listen, don't come to me to learn how to do a move, but if you want your take on, hey, how do you thought my match looked as someone who's watched and love wrestling and study it and want to do, like, I can tell you from a fan perspective of what connected with me and what didn't. Now, what if just because it didn't connect with me didn't mean it didn't connect with 35 people out there? Mm-hmm. I'm not into what everybody else is into, and that's the beautiful thing about this business is that professional wrestling is the Muppet Show, and every segment is a different emotion, a different thing. It's a different scoop of ice cream, and if that segment's not for you, then I'm hoping there's going to be something else in that show that will be.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Don't get into a mindset that it's about how many cool moves I can do. This is another piece of advice I want to give to people out there. If you are doing all these cool moves and flips and just constantly going fast as you can, and you're not actually stopping to engage with the crowd, you're not working to get your character over, you're not doing character work, they're not going to remember that next week. They're not going to remember it next month or next year. They're going to say, wow, that was some really cool shit. I've never seen such cool stuff happen. And then they're not going to remember it. What they are going to remember is, I don't know, some goofy segment with a part that resonated with them. And it was during a promo or it was during an interaction or whatever. Character work. You can do and have a far longer career if you take less crazy risk and less crazy bumps. If you can get yourself over with character work, and you can captivate people with your character. So you have to have both. Slow down. That's another thing. When you think you're going fast, slow down. Work, wrestle. Work, wrestle. Move, interact with the audience. Move, interact with the audience. Watch Roman Reigns. He's not doing 60 moves a match. What is he, number one in the world, right?
You know, hit 5 or 6 keynote speak things. Like he's essentially the John Cena Hulk Hogan prototype. I'm gonna go out there and do the same 10 things over a match. You're gonna play into my character, I'm gonna play into yours, and we're gonna go home and we're both gonna be safe.
Exactly. Yep.
Last one here. What are you grateful for, and are you currently happy?
Oh, I'm very happy. So what am I grateful for? Of course, my family, my kids, my wife. I'm grateful that I was trusted to be welcomed into this business, into this wrestling family. I'm grateful that my parents pushed me to walk the straight and narrow, even though it was extremely hard. And I'm grateful for a lot of these wrestling promotions, especially the promoters that I've become friends with. James Ellsworth and Paul Bowe, who've given me opportunities, given me a platform, given me access, and they've believed in me. And I mean, for God's sakes, Paul Bowe has put me on a trading card, a collectible trading card. Like,
I still want to get the one to wear like a Logan Paul necklace. I want to do it so bad.
Yeah, well, that's part of the reason why I do that, because I have me on
I want the PSA. I want the PSA 15.
Oh no!
Like,
I told you. I tried to sell that to Kerry Stoker for $7 million. He wouldn't take it, but I'll sell it to you for $5 million, though. I'll cut you a deal.
A holographic Charizard.
Yeah, but just people having faith in my ability and trusting me with their microphone, for God's sakes. I'm grateful for that, because it's allowed me to perform in their painting, on the stage, and to get my talents out there and to express myself. And I'll tell you another thing, secret about wrestling and this character work. This is my therapy. This is my therapy. Like, you have all these struggles and stressors during your daily life, but wrestling, you get it all out.
Mm-hmm.
Or you get away from everything. You get away from the reality. And that's from a fan perspective or a wrestler perspective. You have a getaway. And at the end of the day, that's why wrestling, I think, is so important and valuable to American culture.
I love how it's getting more popular again, because it has the right media team behind it. That TKO is really putting wrestling, it's making wrestling cool again, isn't it? That WWE TKO deal. But
I saw Netflix the other night, and I was happy with it. I liked it. That's all.
Yeah. I think wrestling is the only thing is I hope more fans don't just become tribalism and be like, I'm only gonna take in the top and not support everything else.
It comes from the cool mentality of, I'm gonna rage against the machine. I'm gonna go up against the evil empire, and the evil empire was the E, right?
Mm-hmm.
The New York and everything. And I originally, when I first started watching AEW, I kind of was in that mindset, unfortunately. But when you, at least from my perspective, once I got into it, we are all brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And it don't matter where we work at. It don't matter if we're working in the left or the right. He's working in TNA. There's Moose over there. This guy can't talk to him because he's working in the E. No.
Nope.
You all are brothers and sisters. Wrestling is one of these weird things where you all speak the same language. I can show up at a promotion in Cleveland or South Carolina for the first time, never met this individual before. And when we get in the ring, it's an instant bond because we speak the same language.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what promotion you are. It doesn't matter what contract you have, So I'm not I have a lot of problems with this whole tribalism thing. But again, I think it comes from that instinct to, kind of rebel against authority, go back to Travis Norbert character. And the authority is like WWE, and I'm not cool if I'm on board with that. I'm more cool if I'm with the Outcast, the Outcast, or this other promotion or whatever. So the hell with them. And no, when I was growing up, again, it was, let's watch Monday Night Raw. Oh, let's change the channel over to WCW Monday Nitro at the same time.
If you change the channel and you did the WCW move, I would leave the house and go home. I wouldn't.
Oh no, we did both. We would if we had to record one on different television using what do we call VHS or whatever back then. That's what we would do. So we had access to both. We wanted to see our guys on both shows. We didn't care what place they worked at. We didn't give a fuck. These are cool wrestlers. Let's watch them. So what is happening?
I was so hurt when Savage and all left and went to WCW. I was like, nope. I was a kid, obviously, but I've become not that fan. Like I watch as much as I possibly can. And I try to.
We just wanted to see him. We were thankful that they were still on somewhere, and we're like, all right, cool, there he is. Let's watch.
Yeah, I'm still playing catch up with some stuff. Like I watched all the way up until I went to my cousin's house the first time, and he's like, yo, we're getting a fight, and I was like, oh, like we're getting a match, he said, and I was like, oh, cool, and I showed up, and I was like, this ain't wrestling. Like they're in a cage. What is this? And like, oh, this is mixed martial arts. And like the main event's gonna be fun. And I was like, all right. So the main event comes, and Tito Ortiz comes out, and I was like, that guy looks like a badass. And then Ken Shamrock came out, and I go, I know him. He's on WWE. And they're like, no, this is where he started before that.
He started, right.
I was hooked. I was like, I am never watching that other stuff again. Like, and I became obsessed with mixed martial arts. And then after high school, I was into it before because like the Ultimate Fighter. And then when the Ultimate Fighter was about to get a TV show, I was like, yo, this is going to take over the world. Like, this sport is going to change the game. And I watched the whole evolution of MMA. Like Matt Riddle, I remember watching him fight GSP. And then he became an independent wrestler. I'm like, that guy's a legit killer. Like he's funny and he's lighthearted, but he will ruin your day if he wanted to.
I'll tell you this. Matt Riddle, I've become friends with him. He is who you see on camera.
Yeah.
he is a bro. That actually is how he is. He's that's him.
Yeah.
He is very, very just laid back, a cool bro. But if you had an issue with him and you think you're going to like steal him, you think you're going to like go up and like get one in on him, he's probably going to kick your ass.
Yeah, he will.
Yeah,
he's a trained killer. Like,
yes. Sometimes he grabs me and I'm like, oh shit. Yeah,
that's you don't go 5 rounds with GSP and walk out smiling and you're not good at, just because he didn't win the fight did not mean that GSP had a hard time controlling him. He is a very talented mixed martial artist. But yeah, like, and then I bounced, like, so everyone's like, yo, you got to get back into wrestling. There's these 2 guys you're going to love, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. And I was like, oh, I'm in. I tuned in. They both quit and walked out of wrestling. And I was like, all right, now what? And I just kind of stuck with it and I fell back in love with it. But there's a whole era, like the Ruthless Aggression, that whole era. Like I'm still going back and rewatching and relearning because I missed a whole section there. But
and I missed an influence earlier. I forgot CM Punk. I don't want to forget that. Yeah. So
love him. I can't get behind the straight edge thing just because I like my my devil's lettuce and my craft beers, but respect and love the guy.
Nipping the grape, huh? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. But thank you so much. Seriously. One of the things I always really thank anyone who's in any form of entertainment, whether it be wrestling, music, movies, the whole nine, is when the crowd needs you to be you. You're always on point, whether you're going through something, whether it's an injury, whether it's family, whether it's personal stuff. You, as an entertainer, man, you put that aside and you play that Travis character and you let people forget about life for a while. And you're beautiful. You're beautiful at doing it. And you're not, and like I said, just really, really respecting you more than just the character of just seeing what you bring to the table at wrestling shows. Cause that's what I've always tried to do. And just seeing a lot of, okay, this guy's doing it. I'm not the only one who has that mind state of just how can I enhance everything around me. But you're just a class act dude, man. And I'm really thankful we became friends. I'm really thankful for this conversation, and I can't wait to keep watching more.
Hell yeah. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to coming on and getting to know you also a little bit better. I can't wait to see what the future holds. So
yeah,
good stuff.
Yeah. So where can people find and support you, and some promotions that they can go besides PPW and see more of the Travis Norbert in other universes and how he reacts with other people?
So if you search for Travis Norbert on Facebook, X, what is it? TikTok, places like that. It's just Travis Norbert. On Instagram, it's the real Travis Norbert. And when it comes to other promotions that you can see me at, of course, PPW, there's ACW, Adrenaline Championship Wrestling in Maryland. Sometimes MCW now, somehow. Titan Championship Wrestling in New Jersey. I just started working there. I love it. They have pyro when you come out. That's fucking cool. And very classy roster, access to some very brilliant minds. I met Monster Mac and had a 2-hour conversation with him. It was crazy.
There's a guy there I'm a big fan of that I want to see live. I like that Gangone guy a lot. I like what
yeah. He does a lot of well, maybe I shouldn't reveal too much, but yeah, he's very creative. I'll say that.
He's a cool mind. I want to see more from him.
Yeah, he's very creative. I don't want to give too much out on like roles and everything, but very creative guy. I've been to Extreme Shock Wrestling in North Carolina. That was a very cool place. It was very old school Southern hospitality type. You got paid when you walked into the door, not as you were leaving. So that was cool.
Love to see that.
Yeah. So keep your eyes peeled for some New York stuff, maybe, or Virginia. Those are my next two areas of interest. And my goal is kind of like to just work maybe one promotion in each state. I don't know if I want to be in a position where I'm working multiple promotions in one state, because I want to keep my character unique and I want to have an attraction for that promotion. You know, you can only see Travis Norbert at this place, you know, unless I travel 200 miles, you know what I mean? So, very old school when it comes to that stuff. So
have you locked horn with other like legendary managers? Have you? I know Jimmy Hart's still on the scene.
I just saw Jimmy Hart in Cambridge, Maryland a couple months ago. I talked to him and he gave me some advice. I saw Teddy Long about a year ago. Managers. Is that the only two? It's weird because like I've interacted a lot more with like the wrestlers than managers, but
I still seen shows where Jimmy Hart people are telling him to stop setting chairs up. Like, Jimmy, we got this. Go sit down.
It's like what I said before. Have respect for your brothers and sisters. Don't let them do all the work, you know, and respect for the business that you're in. Lift a board, lift a chair. Don't be one of those guys that just shows up and leaves or whatever and just watches other guys slave over stuff. What is that, you know? But him, I've seen a lot of these old school vets just pick up a chair and maybe even lift a board here and there. They don't have to. They've paid their dues. You know, the old saying, pay your dues. But it's out of respect and it's setting an example. You know, if you can set an example, if they can do it, then you can do it too. Yeah. And it builds character, you know, and that's your ring. That's your sacred working area. So participate in its construction, you know, or help everybody get home early. If everybody helps out, then people can get home at a reasonable time, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for the ABJ podcast. Make sure, once again, if you made this far, take a screenshot. Let us know what you thought of the episode. Put it on there. Tag us. Say, hey, this was really good or bad or whatever it may be. And maybe if there's a question that you want, put it in the comment section and we'll respond to you on social media and reach out and have those communications. If you want to be on the podcast, my platform is open to everybody. I don't care if you've been in the business 6 months, 16 years, 100 years, whatever it may be. I'm always down for those conversations. So let's talk. Once again, does not need to just be professional wrestling. I'm open for everybody. So let's grow this channel. Have a good 2025. The goal is 10K subscribers by the end of the year. And I would like to hit 100 paid, 100 camp level members on the channel so people can really cash in on those content early. So there's the goals for 2025. Thank you guys so much for helping and being a part of it, watching, subscribing, and just listening to other people's journeys and helping them chase those dreams. Make sure you follow my guest links below as well. If there's get your own Travis Norbert t-shirt, trading cards, and whatever it may be. And we'll see you guys. Yeah.
I got one final part.
Go ahead.
Okay, you ready?
That's right.
The best.